Hi, I'm Chef Jennifer Basil, and we have been exploring some Italian-American classic dishes this season. Today, we're going to do two that you typically would see at celebrations. We're going to do baked ziti, and we're going to make cannoli. Who hasn't been to a wedding and not had ziti? This is like a standard Italian-American dish, and we're gonna make my version of it. So first we're gonna make my sauce. This is actually the sauce that started me developing my signature bolognese, but this is just a beef ragu. And we've got pasta. We're gonna mix it with like lots of gooey, ooey cheese and bake it off. So let's get the sauce started. So this is my original beef ragu. It is how, I guess, my love of sauces started. And this is closer to what my mom made for me growing up. I've got a nice saucepan, a little bit of olive oil. We're gonna start with green bell pepper and onion. And for this recipe, I'm using dry herbs. So, like most of my recipes, we're gonna start by getting these softened and translucent. And once that's done, we're gonna add ground beef. I like to use a ground chuck. That way I know that it's come from a certain part of the cow and it's not a bunch of different parts of the cow kind of all ground together. And this has a nice fat content. So while we're gonna have to drain it before we put our tomato products in, you're gonna get more flavor from this particular cut of ground beef. So break it up so that it browns evenly. So interesting fact about ziti. Ziti in Italy is actually a tubular long noodle. So kind of think of like spaghetti or bucatini that has a hole in the center of it. And typically for a ziti dish in Italy, you would just take that long pasta and you would break it into pieces to make your casserole. Here in the United States, we use rigatoni or penne pasta. It's still a, tubular macaroni type pasta, but we actually manufacture it differently than what they use in Italy. So again, this dish is an adaptation of an Italian dish that we made completely Italian-American. Okay, now that our ground beef is brown, we've drained off that fat, let's add in some diced tomatoes. And again, diced tomatoes give it a little more texture. I've got whole plum tomatoes that are peeled. We got it from Italy, San Marzano, and we've pureed it. You can certainly use just a tomato sauce or crushed tomatoes. And then we're gonna add our herbs. I'm gonna turn that down just a little bit because tomato sauce does splatter if it's too hot, and we don't want it to scorch on the bottom. So I like to add lots of garlic, and again, I'm using dried in this one. Lots of garlic, some oregano, probably 3 times as much basil as the oregano, and then I like a lot of parsley. And then, because we're using this in a ziti, I'm gonna add some fennel seeds just to change the flavor a little bit. But seriously, this is like my Sunday sauce. This is what I make. I eat spaghetti. I actually can eat spaghetti for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So this would be my sauce at home that I just make and eat my spaghetti with. But you could make this on a Sunday, eat your spaghetti, and then keep it in the fridge. The longer it sits, the more flavor that will develop. And you can use it, let's say, on a Tuesday or Wednesday and make some ziti. Okay, so let's get our cheese mixture ready so that we can layer our pasta, our sauce, and the cheese. Think of this as kind of like a lasagna dish, only with pasta instead of pasta sheets. So we're gonna take ricotta. We're gonna take some egg because that's gonna help it set and bind. We are gonna take some Parmesan and mozzarella and some crushed red pepper. And give that a good stir to combine it. Let's throw some parsley in there too. That way it adds some vibrancy and some green color to our dish. Okay. Add a good mix. And we're gonna start layering. So let's start with some of our sauce. And we wanna cover the bottom of the dish with that. This will help keep the pasta from drying out in the oven and also keeps your dish from sticking. Get a nice layer of sauce on the bottom. And then we've got some of our ziti pasta rigatoni cooked off. So spread a layer of the pasta. And then take that ricotta cheese mixture. We'll do some dollops. And just kind of spread it around the top of your casserole dish. Maybe one more scoop. Here we go. I'm gonna take some more of that mozzarella. That'll create a nice gooey when you break into it layer. And then repeat the process with another layer. And this is a dish you can make ahead as well. So this is something you could easily make ahead. You could put it in the freezer and then pop it in the oven to reheat it. So this is a great dish for potlucks. That's why it's used a lot at events, at buffets, weddings, anniversaries, birthdays. I really can't think of an event I've gone to where they've had Italian cuisine and not had ziti. And more mozzarella. Oh. I'm gonna add more sauce because you know I like things saucy. And then maybe a little bit more mozzarella. We're gonna pop this in the oven for about 30 minutes. We wanna make sure that that egg cooks through and the cheese gets nice and melty. Let's get this in the oven. All right, let's get some dessert going while our ziti's in the oven. We're gonna make some cannoli, very classic Italian dessert. And we've already got some dough made because it needs to rest for about 5 hours. But while I roll this out, I'll walk you through how you make the dough. I've got our rested dough, and I'm gonna put a little flour here on my clean countertop. And I'm gonna knead it just a little bit because you kind of want this to be a nice smooth dough. See how it's kind of broken up a little bit? We want it more smooth before we roll it out. If it gets a little sticky, just add a little bit more flour. And you'll see the more you knead it, it kind of comes together. So in our dough, we have flour, sugar, butter, salt. We used a whole egg. We used 1 egg yolk. We took that egg white from the egg yolk and set it aside. You'll see where we use that here in a minute. And then the 2 key ingredients, some Marsala wine and some white vinegar. Those 2 wet ingredients are what's going to create those bubbles and that crispy crust in your cannoli. So as you can see, the more I knead this, see how it's not coming apart and it's not quite so chunky, it's getting more smooth. That's what you want. And of course I wore black, knowing I was gonna work with flour, so don't be surprised if I get covered. But hey, then everyone will think I was working hard in the kitchen. So really, this is a great dessert. It's easy to make once you know the tricks. Okay, so now that it's coming together and it's a little bit more smooth, we're gonna roll it out and then we're gonna cut out some circles to put around our cannoli forms. But you're wondering how they get those shapes. That's how. All right, I'm not gonna roll this entire thing out. Let's just do half to start with. And just like cookie dough or pie dough, we wanna roll it out. And actually for this recipe, instead of rolling a full circle out, we're gonna roll it a little bit more in a linear fashion. And you'll notice now after kneading it for a while that it's kind of stretchy, and that's the consistency that you want in the dough. See, it's got that nice stretch to it. Perfect. And then we are ready to cut out some of our dough. And it may shrink a little bit as you cut it, but that's okay. You can stretch it back out. And we want to take a cannoli form, which is just a little metal tube, and you want to wrap it around. And here's where that egg white's gonna come into play. So we're gonna use this as the glue to seal the dough around the form. You wanna make sure that it's sealed well. If it doesn't, it's gonna open up like a taco shell, and that's not what we're looking for. This is Italian food. So we'll get these over. We've got a pot of oil. I prefer to use shortening. I think for anything fried that works the best, but a vegetable oil or shortening, either of those would work. Make sure it's sealed well. And let's take these over to the fryer. I told you I was gonna get covered in flour, typical Jennifer. All right, let's put these in the oil. Our oil's hot. We're only gonna do 3 at a time because we don't want to crowd the pan. And this is shallow oil, so we're gonna need to turn these as they fry. So what we're looking for is those bubbles to form and for the crust to get nice and golden. Once they're nice and golden, we'll take them out, we'll let them cool, and we'll get our filling ready. So while our cannoli dough is fried and cooling, let's get the filling ready. And the filling's very simple. It's ricotta. It is powdered sugar. And then you can add whatever kind of filling you want. Traditionally, you're gonna find pistachio or chocolate chips. And I've got both here. So whatever kind of filling you want to use, you're going to want to put some of that in your filling. I want to get that nice blended. You could always use a mascarpone or a whipped cream if you're not a huge fan of ricotta, but this is going to be traditional. We've got that sugar mixed in. Let's mix, what should we do today? I think we should do pistachio. So I'm going to mix some of this in, but I want to leave some to put on the outside of our cannoli as well. We'll get that mixed in. If you are a baker and you have piping bags at home, you would want to take a wide tip and your piping bag and pipe this into your shells, or a Ziploc bag will work too. Just make sure that you cut the opening wide enough for the pistachios to come out, but not so wide that it won't fit inside your cannoli shell. And then we're just gonna fill this up. All right. I've got that ready to go. And literally, we're just gonna pipe that in. Beautiful. And then to finish those off, we've got the rest of our pistachios. And you just wanna dip. How pretty. the ends of your cannoli in those. Holy cannoli, we did it. We've got some beautiful cannoli desserts. Our ziti's ready. Let's get it out of the oven. Oh, look at this bubbly goodness. Ooh. We have dinner and dessert. What a celebration of food today. I'm so glad that you stayed with me as we made our baked ziti and learned how to make cannoli. I have these recipes posted on my website, which is jenniferbasil.com, and be sure to follow me on social media.